Hello, my name is Jodie Lopez. I'm part of the EdTech team at United Learning, and in this video we're going to look at the principles of using visualizers for live modelling. This is one of a series of lessons on using visualizers. Further lessons look at some specific worked examples demonstrated using the visualizer. One video centres around using visualizers in English, so reading, spelling, phonics, writing and handwriting. Another video looks at using visualizers in mathematics. And another video looks at some ideas for using visualizers in other subjects across the curriculum. There are also some videos showing you how to share your visualizer through either Microsoft Teams, Google Meet or Zoom, whichever is your preference, which enables you to use your visualizer remotely for remote learning, blended learning, or even staff meetings where it's useful to share with others in a very physical way with physical resources and modelling. So look out for those other videos, but in this video we're going to centre around the principles and some of the reasons why we might use a visualizer in some of our lessons or certain points of our lessons. So looking first of all at a general teaching model. This covers the general principles of how we model and teach each lesson and units and topics as a whole. So we usually start off with some sort of explanation. What are we going to be covering? What are we looking at? Upfront teaching of any key vocabulary or any key terms or methods, and then we might model some ideal answers and what a good one looks like. We might model how to work through a method of long division, for example, or we might model how to do some writing including adjectives. Whatever it might be, that forms part of our beginning part of the lesson, and sometimes we model and then explain, sometimes we explain then we model, but essentially we're doing that at the beginning of our lesson. We might also include some time on a shared example where we ask students to get involved with some of that example at the beginning so that we can kind of iron out any early misconceptions and so on. And then usually the children go to doing some sort of task, whether it's independent or group work or paired. And during that time is when the teacher starts to do the more adaptive part of the lesson, where you're going round trying to get around different children, or you might be sat with a specific group to help scaffold and support them. But either way, you're going to do usually some sort of verbal feedback, helping them to improve their work during the lesson, and also to give maybe some live written feedback as well. Occasionally as part of this, we might share a good example again. We might say, oh, Rebecca's done something really amazing here, let's talk about it and see what they've done. But essentially we're using that part of the lesson to both create and improve what the children are doing, and also to do some assessment as we go. That assessment might be on the basis of, am I going to speed up this lesson because they're really getting it and we're going to move on, or am I going to go back a bit and remodel something because actually a lot of children are struggling, and I might go back to asking everyone to look my way so that I can explain again. And then after the lesson, there might be some further assessment where you mark the books and give some written feedback perhaps, or some whole class feedback at the beginning of the next lesson. And that will also inform our planning for the next lesson as well. Now, children are used to seeing everything on the right-hand side of the circle. They're used to things being explained and modelled. They used to be able to see the assessment in their own book, but they're not used to seeing for everybody that adaptive part of the lesson where you're working with different children. If it's not them, then they're not likely to see what you're doing or the advice that you give to that particular child, although often it is useful for more than one person. So what a visualizer is really great at is making that whole cycle visible. So making it really easy for every child in the class, even, as I said earlier, remotely, if you're doing it through a Zoom or a Microsoft Teams lesson, even being able to make every part of that modelling and assessing and constantly sharing visible through your visualizer, whether that's on the whiteboard or through video conferencing. So some of the main reasons we use a visualizer: first of all, it's really, really flexible. So in the videos where we share some examples and demonstrate some use of the visualizer, you'll see how flexible a visualizer really is. In essence, it's simply a camera on a stick, but in reality, it's a really flexible, easy use of technology in the classroom that's really low tech and really easy and simple. Once you've got it up and running and once you know how to use it, it's a really simple thing to flick to, and it can be used in so many different ways that it becomes really, really flexible as part of your teaching pattern. It's really useful for modelling, which you'll see in the examples, but anything where you're going from concrete examples, concrete manipulatives, you've got some sort of concrete resources, putting them under the visualizer just means that every child is getting to see exactly how you use them. It's really quick and easy, so rather than trying to make a big elaborate PowerPoint of kind of 2D examples of things that you can find online, the visualizer just enables you to be able to make that much quicker without having to spend ages creating things in the evening ready for the next lesson. You can use a lot of the current resources you already have in your classroom, and you'll see that in the other videos in the examples that I use. Everything is just concrete examples of things that I've always got around me. It's very fuss-free for whole class impact. So if you think of things like science experiments, where often you have to kind of gather everybody around a desk at the front, and it's kind of, you know, you get, hopefully it all goes well, but somebody might be jostling somebody at the back, and then that causes fuss, or somebody can't see and you get lots of people trying to crane their necks over to see or kind of get their way to the front. With a visualizer, you're making it all visible to everybody by putting that experiment under the visualizer and everyone seeing it, even from the back of the classroom. So it saves everyone having to move all up to the front and get everyone up and about moving at a time when you just want to be able to impart the information. As I've said earlier, you can use them in school and you can use remotely, and they have a very low tech need. Once they're set up, there's very little that can go wrong, and there's very little that you need to know about how to use them. There aren't very many buttons. It's literally a camera and you're putting things underneath the camera. So it's very, very simple and very easy to use once you've got over the initial hurdle of knowing how to use yours and how to get it set up. After that, it's just there and it's always ready to use with very little fuss. So have a look at the further videos where we'll share some concrete examples of modelling using a visualizer in English, in maths and across the curriculum, and then also look for the videos where you can share this for remote use as well. Thank you for watching.